The
Biden
budget.
6.9 trillion budget, since we're already on economics. Um, what's wrong with it? It seems okay. I don't hate it. I haven't read it, but who can? It's 6.9 trillion freaking dollars.
Jesus
Um,
Christ.
uh, this one suggests that he's doubling down on Medicare and Social Security. Defense spending 26 billion increase to the Pentagon, 842 billion, 3.2 increase as the Defense Department seeks to confront a variety of challenges from boosting troops pay to confronting China. Um, an increase in border security, 800 million increase since last year. Oops, dang it. And I think that's it. That's the biggest and most important things. Are we
Yeah.
unhappy with this? I mean, the GOP is going to hate it no matter what because he said it.
Well, of course. It it runs a deficit again. We're getting a little high on that debt. Honestly, we're paying something on the odds of $500 billion a year in interest on our debt,
I know,
which
and that's
which
a
means that we start with
mhm,
a $500 billion handicap when it comes to developing a budget that's balanced.
right.
That I think that's I think that's incredibly wasteful. Like,
It's more of this economy horseshit. Who are we paying that money to? The Fed. Isn't
well,
that, isn't
it's the
that
Fed
weird?
or any country that owns our
Right.
bonds.
Well, I think most of it goes to the Fed, but and this is where you get into the conspiracy shit of the Fed doing this so that they can make that money, so they can get it, so they give us the money so that they can take it back later, and it gets into really weird high level economic shit that I don't believe in. It seems like it's all smoke mirrors and horse shit.
Well, that stuff's actually a little over my head too, if I'm being honest.
I know, and they want it to be over your head so that
But
your boy, what was his name? J Rubs, JP's, what was his name?
J-Pow, old
J-Pow's.
J-Pow, yeah.
J-Pow wants it above your head so that J-Pow can go in there and say whatever he wants, and then everybody's eyes glaze over, and they're like, "Yeah, J-Pow, do whatever you want. I don't care."
Well, the Federal Reserve is a government entity,
No, it's not.
and the it is, and
It's a bank.
the governors of the Federal Reserve are appointed by the president
It,
and confirmed by the Senate.
okay.
I
Why do
mean,
we
when I
live?
look at this budget, it seems very odd to me because uh, one of the big reasons we were raising the budget every year was because we were in Afghanistan, we were doing things abroad, but now we say we're pulling back. Obviously, we don't just say it; we are. We're out of Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
We're not actively participating in a war. We're supporting Ukraine, but it's more of a Cold War situation. So how are these tax dollars helping Americans exactly? I get the border situation, but that doesn't necessitate as big an increase as we're saying. And uh, being worried about China, I don't know what you're going to use all this money for if you're being worried about something. I don't know. I'm a little confused.
Yeah, there's that. I mean, most of our budget goes to Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security programs in the first place. It's like half our budget goes to those two programs or three
Mm-hmm.
programs. Uh, and Biden is calling them cuts if the GOP wants to cut the budget for those things. But at the same time, uh, what I see when I look at the House plan, which I linked to you,
Mm-hmm.
is they want to eliminate what's known as waste, fraud, and abuse. Um, I sent you
Yeah,
another link as
I've
well
got this one
about
here that
improper payments.
is
Yeah,
improper payments, which is cool. I read it. It's I agree it's a problem, but you're not going to like the
yeah.
solution.
And the solution is,
Hiring uh, federal workers to find it and do it properly.
I'm fine with that.
Well, Republicans aren't because that's going to be a giant increase in the federal government. You're going to have to
Well,
hire thousands
if
of
you have
people,
to,
and they're going to look at people's stuff. He wanted to replace retired IRS agents, and they screamed bloody murder about increasing the IRS.
if you have to spend $2 billion to increase the number of people working in Medicare and Medicaid,
Mm-hmm.
so that you can find the improper payments or stop the improper payments and eliminate instances of fraud, then and that saves you $200 billion. Well,
Mm-hmm.
you've netted $198 billion that way,
Right. And
which
the Republicans are
would
going to
be
call
fine.
that a massive increase to the federal government, and they're going to fearmonger it about millions of new or thousands of new federal employees that are coming for you.
You would have to spin it the right way, I think, to avoid that, but it could be done because if you package it in the right way as you're hiring waste, fraud, and abuse specialists to prevent Medicare overspending, for example, then I don't think that's a winning issue for Republicans to argue against.
No, it's
I
not a
think
winning
that
issue. It's not a winning issue. The nonsense that they spin out of it is Joe Biden hires thousands of new government employees. He's increasing the size of the government. We want a small government. He's increasing it. Don't
I
vote
think
for him.
that I think that Republicans aren't just outright against increasing or against. I think that Republicans aren't outright against hiring people though for the
Okay.
government. I think that the IRS is one of those things that is just universally hated. Um, but in terms of hiring more Medicare workers and their waste, fraud, and abuse specialists, for example, I think that actually sounds like a Republican bill, where you've got you've got plenty of examples of instances where Republicans will hire people to tackle that kind of thing. You've seen where
Mm-hmm.
they want to do drug testing for people on welfare.
Terrible idea.
Well, well, if you're going to do that, you have to hire people to do the drug testing,
Right.
right? So it's not like they're totally against
Fl-
hiring people in the federal government if hiring those people results in less spending.
that increased spending. Florida did it for like a year in 2016, and they spent so much on the people doing the testing and the tests, and they caught 1% of the people. And the hiring and the testing was like 20% of I'm making up numbers now, but they spent more money on testing than they saved by kicking people off.
Well,
It didn't
there
work.
you
It
go.
doesn't work, and
It
it's
didn't
never going to
work.
work. But
It didn't work in that instance, right?
But that's
Well,
going
I
to be
was just
on
saying that
primetime
Republicans
TV.
are not necessarily against hiring people to try these kind of things.
Right. If it hurts the right people, they'll hire more people. They think that this hurts that specific situation. They were all for hiring people to drug test all those welfare queens who drive Cadillacs. And it turns out there aren't any. And they're not all drug users, and it didn't save any money, so they abandoned the program and don't talk about it anymore.
Okay,
It's
it
it's
was
a
a bad
bad
idea, but
it
that
was a bad
wasn't my
idea. It didn't
point.
work. I know. You're suggesting that if we hire people to get rid of all these fraud and abuse, that the Republicans would be for it.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, great. This just continues and points out the reason we need universal health care.
No, it
Yes.
actually tells you the opposite.
No, ACA is not universal health care. It's not even
My
close.
dude, they won't even bring back the child tax credit that they were giving people month over month that reduced child poverty by 30%. We reduced child poverty and hunger by 30%, and they're not bringing it back in this budget. We're never going to get universal health care.
It would solve this problem. There wouldn't be fraud, waste, and abuse. Because right here, this is talking about the thing you linked me.
It's exactly the opposite. It's government
No,
programs. Government programs get 8 to 10% of 8 to 10% of the spending by Medicare and Medicaid is improper.
because it's jacked up with private insurance who's trying to
Well,
turn a
private
profit.
insurance only has an improper payment rate of 0.5 to 1.5%.
Right, because they care about
So
profit.
Yeah, so you have a
Right.
government program that's wasting 10%, and you have a private program that's wasting 0.5%.
If they were
One of
no no
these
no
is
no,
superior to the other.
there that waste is people who are either not eligible, which isn't an issue under Universal because everybody's eligible, or people who are already getting that covered by their for-profit insurance. And this Medicare Part D and Medicare Advantage and FFS, whatever that is, hospital coverage and physician coverage, it's overly complicated and you make mistakes. Universal healthcare,
I'm
very, very,
also
very simple. You go
I'm
in,
also
the doctor
curious.
says you're a citizen. Here's what you get. That's what the government pays for. The end. There is no Medicare Advantage. There is no private health plan. There is no profit motive. There is no Medicare Part D. None of that. You simplify it.
I'm also curious how often, how thorough, and by who uh, private companies are being audited as opposed to a federal government, a federal program is being
Themselves.
audited.
Yeah, I don't
Well,
believe
I don't
that
know
point
for
0.5
sure.
number because they run that number, and of course we'd never make a mistake. I've never made a mistake in my entire life. I
well, about
checked.
85% of private insurance companies actually have departments uh, specifically to track that stuff down, to make sure
Right.
it doesn't happen, and to go
And
after people that overcharge.
right, and then if they do a bad job, they'd lie about it so that they don't lose their so their board of directors doesn't get pissed off, and they don't lose market share or stock percentage. I don't trust them. I don't
And that
believe
half a
them.
percent to 1.5% number is actually, I didn't link it, but it was from a Forbes article I was reading.
Yeah, I don't
So
trust them either because they're
it was,
interested in money and turning a profit.
I mean, I would definitely listen to the people that are interested in money to tell me about money.
No, you can't trust the people who want money to tell you how to make money. That's exactly the wrong idea. Because they'll
How's
lie.
that the wrong
Because they'll
idea? They know
lie.
money.
Because they'll lie right to your face to make a buck. Wasn't it? Uh, who's that guy? Jim Cramer. That's on the TV. I don't trust economists because if an economist makes more money by lying to you, they will. That's like what they do. I want to. If the TV economist wants to make money, and they make more by lying to you, they will.
Sounding a lot like Alex Jones right now.
Yes, I know
To
because
be honest with you.
the economy is a giant scam. Whole thing, top to bottom. Whole damn country's economy is based on buying and selling each other's houses. And it's a mess. And we could simplify that with a universal health care. One, you go to the doctor. Two, the doctor gives you an honest uh, assessment. Three, he treats you. And then four, he remits to the government, says this person with this social security number had this done, pay us. The end. How does that cause fraud, waste, and abuse?
Well, I think that the government is inefficient in just about everything it does, which is why we have the amount of waste, fraud, and abuse that we have right now. So expanding the government more
Would
would
would a
proportionally increase the amount
okay
that we waste.
inefficiencies? Are you
The government is
inefficiencies
inefficient
come
by design.
from over complexity? If it's a 3-step system, there are fewer inefficiencies than a 74-step system, which is what I'm telling you we have right now. We have a 74-step system, and things go wrong. Things don't get filed properly. Somebody doesn't know that they're on Medicare Advantage. It's a very complex system that causes inefficiencies. 3 steps,
I don't think
fewer
the government's capable
inefficiencies.
of a three-step system. It's just not.
Because they are protecting the profit motive of these companies. The government is same way with taxes, right? Taxes could be much simpler, but we don't want to do that because then H.R.R. Block would go out of business. Same exact situation. We could make it simpler. We could make it a 3-step system. We could do all these things, but then those health insurance companies, not the doctors, not the health
I
insurance
think
companies that make
yeah,
billions will go out of business.
it's here. I'll tell you why. Unfortunately, it wouldn't be as simple as you think it would be.
Okay.
Because in order for it to become as simple as you want it to be, you'd also have to privatize the companies that make the medicine, the pharmacies,
Well,
or you have
publicize, not
to
privatize.
publicize. Yeah,
Public.
publicize. Because if you don't do that, then the government has to go through their normal acquisitions process, which means that they have to interact with these private companies, and they have to get quotes from 3 of them, go to the lowest bidder, and then do everything else.
15,000 people to sign off on it.
Right. Those are all
Yeah.
inefficiencies. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's a
so
pain in the dick.
it won't be a 3-step process. It'll be the government interacting with privatized businesses, and then you run the risk of lobbyists doing what they do and
Overcomplications.
Right.
More
Well,
overcomplications.
exactly. That's where I was going with that. Is the government is not capable of a 3-step process, because the government has exactly like Matt was saying, is the acquisitions process is you're gonna have to go get your quotes. You're gonna have 12 different people up some chain of bureaucracy that have to sign off on whatever it is that you do, and it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah, that's the inefficiency
really is.
you're
It's
discussing.
It's
yeah,
an inefficiency.
I want to get rid of that inefficiency.
You
I would
can't.
love
The
to.
government
You
is
can.
not
You can. They just don't want to because it feeds the profit motive. They want
So
these companies.
You approve of the government picking the winners and the losers. Is basically what you're saying. You approve of the government being able to just say, that person, we're buying from you. That technology.
They do already.
They already do. We have to shop whatever we want. We say we have this thing that we want. We need to be able to do this thing. We need to be able to have a machine that can perform kidney dialysis. We put that
the
out
hospital
there.
does that, but okay.
Well, if the government's taking over healthcare,
They're
then the
not,
government's going to have
not
a
taking
hospital
over
that's going to come
hospitals.
to
they're just
the
paying.
hospital's going to go to the government, right? And the government is going to say, we need kidney dialysis machines.
No, the doctor's going to say that. This isn't
the doctor goes to the government. Yeah.
And says,
so
we did this.
Has to find kidney dialysis
we did X.
Hospital,
No, the hospital either has them or buys them, and then charges the government when it gets used. This is coming from the doctor's point of view. Hey,
so
government,
the doctors
I did this.
can just buy the most expensive kidney dialysis machine and go to the government and get paid for that?
Maybe. And
I see an opportunity for fraud and abuse.
I know you're seeing that. But hopefully
we
can have some sort of... Well, no, that's not the government doing a fraud and abuse. That's the fucking doctor. I think you guys keep seeing flaws in capitalism and calling it a government problem. You're seeing flaws within a for-profit situation and saying that it's the government's fault when it's actually the capitalism's fault. So if a doctor buys the most expensive thing so that he can make more money from the government, that's not the government's fault. That's capitalism's fault.
I don't think so.
And you could hire the people that are running the health insurance companies now as GS12s, GS13s, and have them oversee these things. And I know that's bureaucracy, but at the same time, the government wouldn't be trying to turn a profit on this. And yes, it would increase spending on that, but it would decrease the amount of spending people are spending on health insurance. For-profit health insurance, which is ridiculously profitable for those companies. And it's profitable for those companies because they're not giving the money out. The only way your health insurance company is profitable is if you keep more than you give out.
But we discussed this too as well during our healthcare debate, and most companies run a less than 5% profit margin on health insurance.
That's 5% too much. I always take a hard stance on this. If being alive requires $1,000, then you're going to find $1,000, or you're going to die, and I think that's unacceptable.
So all I'm saying is that what you want, I can only see 2 ways to go about it, and that's either the hospitals are allowed to buy what they think they need and build a government for it, which is going to result in the government paying a lot of money because they're going to pick some of the greatest things and there's going to be fraud and abuse there. Or the hospitals go to the government and say, this is the thing that we need, in order to do this thing. And and then the government goes out and finds something that meets the specifications that they do.
Mm-hmm.
But that results in everything moving more slowly, and us being less agile, and us being slower to adopt new technologies, which America doesn't like.
I know.
I mean,
also-
is there any other option that I'm not seeing here?
And I accept that idea that the doctors would have to to put in the request for these things, or the hospital itself could just buy it and use it because they have a population of people who need it, and then charge the government X amount of money so that they can pay for the equipment that they bought. Yeah. And yes, that will take time and it will take bureaucrats. I agree. But we have a shitload of bureaucrats now, and they're in the insurance industry. And their job is to deny people. Like, every thing that the insurance company can deny is profit for them.
Well, a
Just
lot of these
so-
things are not necessary in the first place.
Just so all of YouTube knows my stance on this, it's
Mhm.
that we've been doing neither of these things. We've been flirting with a social option and a private option, and I think that's the worst of both worlds.
I agree.
So
The ACA
I'm a
is the
fan
worst of both
picking
worlds.
something. I'm a fan of picking something and going with it. I think both options have problems.
Yeah,
That's my stance.
I agree. The ACA is the worst of both worlds. I think you're right. It is. I don't love Obamacare. I think it is. I think they had an idea to like baby step us towards a universal system, and they stumbled on the way.
Okay.
And now we've fallen down and we're
What do you-
stuck.
What do you think of the House Republicans' plan to reinstate the cap on Obamacare at 400% of the poverty limit?
I don't know what that is or means, and I don't like the ACA. If we could replace the
Yeah,
ACA
so basically
with,
during COVID, we got rid of the cap.
Mhm.
So anybody could sign up for Obamacare, basically. Whereas it was originally intended for people who are under 400% of the poverty limit.
Mhm.
So that resulted in Obamacare having overpayments of nearly $65 billion. So they're saying that this isn't gutting Obamacare. It's not cutting Obamacare. This is putting Obamacare at, or returning it to its original limits.
Okay.
Do you support that, or are you against
Well,
that?
Obamacare is a half-ass solution to a complicated problem, and it doesn't solve anything, and it makes everything overly complicated and worse, and it's set at percentages of poverty levels absolutely fucking retarded. Redonkulous. Get rid of for-profit healthcare. It's an overcomplicated mess that you can't solve with changing the percentage from 400 to 300 or 100 to 900. It doesn't solve it. Doesn't solve your problem. Just moves money around a little bit. And moving money around a little bit isn't going to solve this problem. It's just going to kick it down the road. It's just going to keep the health insurance companies going, or complicate their job so that they have to now raise somebody else's percentage by 1% so that they can keep their 5% profit. It's a bad half-ass solution. That originally, I agree, when it had the public option, when the ACA had the public option at the beginning, it was a baby step towards universal healthcare. And that was the idea, is that the public option would not run for profit the way health insurance companies do. And that extra 5% makes it cheaper, hopefully, and they take care of all the people that that get dropped from private health insurance, and then that private health insurance now has to raise their prices and dump more people, and then those people go onto Obamacare or onto the public option, and then the private companies still are losing less money because they have less people, and they're cutting more things, and then more and more people jump into the public option until everybody's in the public option except for the top 2 or 3% of rich people. And then you just say, oh, yeah, well, yeah, look, it's universal. Bam. Small step. That was the plan. This 400% poverty nonsense, it's overcomplicated nonsense. It doesn't accomplish anything.
Okay. So, in terms of the budget,
Mm-hmm.
this is sort of where I wanted to go with
Mm-hmm.
waste and or wasteful spending by our government. So
Mm-hmm.
we've got our 500 billion from repaying the debt,
Mm-hmm.
and then we have all this stuff in Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. They talk about unobligated COVID money and
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've got it up on screen. We've got the unobligated COVID money. If we're not using it, take it back. It's fine. Or
yeah,
I
the
don't
student
have
loan bailouts that are going to cost $400 billion.
Now that I have a question about.
Sure.
But we'll go down the list. Recapture unobligated COVID money. Fine, don't care. Put Americans back to work by reinstating work requirements for welfare programs. Absolutely not. Horrible idea. We could save 10 billions and spur economic growth. No, you will stop giving money to poor people. The very poorest, the very bottom of the bottom, will have work requirements forced on them. And Elizabeth Warren just told us 2 million people are about to lose their jobs. So this seems like a dumb idea.
2 million people in a historically low unemployment environment.
Right.
Yes.
And then if
And
those
that
2
only
million
increases
people can't
unemployment
get,
by 1%.
if they can't get a job, then they can't get welfare, and then they can't get welfare, and then now they're homeless. And
I could see the
Not a good
argument for
idea.
them not being able to get a job in a 10% unemployment environment, but in a 4%, no.
there's 4% that didn't.
That's the churn.
Like,
That's the churn.
okay, great.
Like
It's
I said, the
churning,
same 4%
but
who didn't have a job in December are not the same 4% that don't have a job right now.
okay. Most of the welfare is given to children, the elderly, and the disabled. Most
Okay.
welfare. Like, so I don't want them to be put on the back to work requirements anyway. And if you start checking who is and isn't, I mean, that's more bureaucracy, right? This is adding complexity to the system.
Well, we already had the work requirements before. I'm pretty sure we had them right before COVID, and they went away because of COVID because we hit 10% unemployment during
Right.
COVID.
And
So
I don't want to
they're
bring it
just
back.
saying, hey, now that COVID's over, let's go back to what we were doing.
Yeah, I think
I
it was
think
a
that's
bad.
fine.
I think it was a bad idea back then. Reduce fraud in the child tax credit and SNAP food programs. I don't. Requiring social security numbers for the CTC and income verification for SNAP would not only reduce fraud, but it would also save roughly $70 billion. That $70 billion is being spent on food.
Not necessarily.
How is it not necessarily being spent on food? You can't buy anything else
Because,
with SNAP except for food.
well, you can because you trade it at a discount.
Then that person who got it buys food with it. This is 100%.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But you go
Yeah,
to a
if
drug
I,
dealer,
if I,
you
yes,
have a
great,
$500 food stamp,
great. I've got $500
and
food stamp.
and the drugs you want are $200. You'll trade the $500 food
Great.
stamp for the drugs.
And then
Yeah.
what happens to that $500 food stamp afterward? It gets
gets
spent
spent on
on
food, of
food.
course.
Exactly. So
But I mean, I don't. It was originally spent on drugs.
no, but
I
no,
mean-
I don't care. It doesn't make any difference. It doesn't mean that SNAP money isn't spent on food. The drug dealer doesn't take that SNAP thing and throw it away.
But that's
Spends
money
it
from the drug dealer that the drug dealer then is free to spend
On
the money
food.
that's not a food stamp on other things. Like they would have, they're
You
gonna
can
buy the
only
food
buy
anyway.
Yeah, they're gonna buy the food. That
So
SNAP
I
thing
will
gets spent
say-
on food.
I will say that every study I've seen shows that things like this just do more harm than good. Like
How?
making the requirements higher or cutting people off from these benefits usually isn't good for society.
Mhm.
But I mean, also you're missing Modular's point, and I have to point that out. And that's that if I don't spend $500 on groceries this month, I get to spend that $500 on a stereo system for my car.
Yes,
Because I had the $500 and I was going to buy groceries with my $500, but now I have your $500 for my groceries, so I can buy a stereo.
Thank
Doesn't that increase the economy? Doesn't that help the economy? Is this not increased spending?
but we don't want increased spending.
I don't understand the economy anymore. I'm out. We don't want
we want
increase.
less
We don't
spending right
want
now
people to buy
because
things. I thought that's the entire point of
we
this
don't want
stupid
inflation
economy.
to go up.
We
And
want
we don't
people
want
to buy
inflation to go
things.
up, but
Yeah,
also we don't want to
there's not
spend
enough
so much.
microchips. There's not enough microchips. We're
Would-
setting up factories for microchips, but if you're
And-
buying a stereo, there's microchips in that stereo.
Okay,
and
but if we
that's going to cause
don't,
inflation.
but if we don't buy things, then it's a fucking depression. I hate this economy.
There is
bullshit.
a balance. There is
Right.
a balance that must
You
be
gotta
struck.
balance it. We're on a knife's edge
If we
right now.
don't buy things, it's a depression, and then it's Joe Biden's fault. And if we do buy things, it causes inflation, and it's Joe Biden's fault.
So since we're
this
doing
is
this,
horseshit.
I'm going to bring us back. I'm going to bring us back to Elizabeth Warren.
Uh-huh.
And one of the arguments she made in that video was that some of these causes of inflation are from things that we have little control over, like the war in Ukraine. Ukraine supplied a lot of
Fertilizer, natural gas.
They had the
They
black
also
soil
have
and all that
There's
fun stuff.
oil from Russia. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they supplied was it
A lot of
soy
wheat.
or was it wheat?
It's
Was
wheat.
it wheat? Yeah.
They do
Yeah.
wheat because they have
Yeah.
that black soil or something like that.
Yeah, and then the bird flu made us kill a bunch of our chickens. There's not much we could do about it. Eggs are going to be more expensive now. Wheat is going to be more expensive now. So,
Shit.
I mean, Elizabeth Warren has her point there.
Yeah.
And so we build up our own microchip processing, then microchips are going to be expensive because of supply chain and China threatening Taiwan.
Okay. It's yeah. I still see this as a win. The money gets spent on food.
What's wrong with requiring Social Security numbers to have a child tax credit?
I don't mind that. That's fine.
Okay. So,
Requiring a social security number for the child tax credit. Fine. Great. Done.
oh, there you go. Perfect.
SNAP would not only reduce fraud. Yeah, and it's just that the
And
idea
income
of
verification
removing.
for SNAP. So if you
No,
have income,
I don't like that.
I like it because there are a lot of people that will get a job
Mm-hmm.
and then not report the job to the government and still collect government benefits that they're not supposed to be getting anymore.
Mm-hmm. And the government gives them money that they spend on food.
Money that they're not entitled to.
If you say so.
I do say so. There's
know.
There's a requirement,
Right, and
maximum income.
I would
to
raise those
receive
requirements.
benefits.
I would raise those requirements way up.
That's a whole different argument.
I know,
But
for food.
I'm saying that as the law stands, yes, I think we should have income verification for our programs if there is a maximum income allowed.
So what's the budget's $7 trillion? Yeah.
Close. Yeah.
I think so.
Six
And this is gonna
6 point something. Yeah.
This is going to save us $60 billion in people supposedly defrauding the government for food benefits.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah. Food benefits and child tax credit.
I just let them have the food at that point. It's a rounding error. $7 trillion versus $60 billion. I don't care if someone gets some groceries.
Every few tens of billion adds up. You know, you're talking 130
I know,
billion
and
out of Medicare and Medicaid.
I know, and
Talking
if-
70 billion out of CTC and SNAP. That's 200 billion right there.
If it were for buying
You know-
stereos or car tires, I'd be like, yeah, okay, let's cut it. But food's pretty important. So I don't care if people are gaming the system to get food. I don't mind. Okay, limit Obamacare at its 400% poverty. I don't know what this is about. Obamacare is a joke. Universal health care is the way to go. Obamacare will be a nightmare of overcomplication until we either abandon it or go to universal. And like Matt said, either go full private or go full public. This half-ass shit is messing us up. Cancel wasteful EPA programs from the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act. Included $27 billion for the EPA with no specific programmatic purpose, and $60 billion for environmental justice programs. That money should be rescinded. No, get bad Republicans. Get out of here. The EPA is good. They just want to pollute.
I do think that money needs to have a purpose.
Then they will set the purpose. Let the EPA hire somebody intelligent at the EPA, and they will set a purpose for it.
Okay. Next one.
Student loans. Okay, so President Biden's student loan bailouts. President Biden's student loan bailout is not only costly and misguided, but recent studies have also shown that it disproportionately benefits the top 10% of income earners. I don't care. Ending these bailouts would save hundreds of billions of dollars, $25 billion from ending the loan repayment moratorium and $379 billion from prohibiting the debt cancellations altogether. Is this thing that he's been doing, this student loan bailout, money that the government gave these people? Or is this a private corporation?
Both.
No, this is federal loans.
So this is
He can
federal
only-
loans. If a local bank gave me not that they do, but if they gave me a loan to go to college and I went to college, that won't be canceled. But this, because it came from the federal government, even if it was 10, 15, 20 years ago, to go to college, and then you went to college, and now you're saying you can't pay it back. This is the $379 billion?
It's not even saying that you can't pay it back. That's not what this is. This is Biden
government
saying,
money.
look at all this money that people owe because they took out student loans.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just not make them pay it back.
Right. Is that not a tax cut? Could he not sell it that way? And if fucking Republicans love fucking tax cuts, why don't they like it when Biden tries
Why
to
do you like
decrease?
this one?
Because
it disproportionately benefits your highest of income earners. So if you
that's people who went to
as a
college.
tax cut, it's a tax cut for the rich.
It's a tax cut for people who went to college. I want people to go to college. I want college to be damn near free.
I think this is a terrible idea. I think you took a loan out, pay it back.
At some point, there will be someone who took out a loan who doesn't have to pay it back. Somewhere down the line. It's going to happen.
It's called bankruptcy. But you can't discharge a loan in bankruptcy.
Again. And you guys have both blamed the government for the overcharging of college loans, but I honestly think this is a capitalism problem.
Well, I blame the government for instituting the government-backed student loan program in the first place and making it so you can't discharge student loans in bankruptcy. We've had that conversation before.
Yeah, I know.
Yes.
I know. And that's not the government's fault. The government is responding.
That is the government's fault.
No, it's responding to capitalistic problems. We have a problem. These people cannot go to college. The government tried to solve it. Yes, they did a bad job of it. I'm not saying that they did a good job, but the problem isn't the government solution. The problem is that the root of the problem, which is capitalism. No. Capitalism has an ugly wart, and the government tries to cut it off. The root is the wart, not the government intervention.
I think that the root of the student loan problem is that not everybody needs to go to college. It's not necessary in most cases. I think college programs are bloated and unnecessary. I mean, I don't need to know calculus
that they can make money.
Degree.
So that they can make more money.
Capitalism. Those programs are bloated and unnecessary because of the loan program that's the free money spigot. We talked about the free money spigot.
Yes, and that is a problem of capitalism, not the government.
Capitalism is the literal nature of the world.
Like, for now.
Everything runs that way. Even before we knew what capitalism was, everything ran on capitalism. It's not a problem with capitalism. I mean, we're talking about
It's a flaw of capitalism. It's a flaw of capitalism, and the government's trying to fix that flaw. And they didn't do a great job.
Every time they try to fix a flaw of capitalism, they make things worse.
No, they solve it for a little while, and then it festers. And then it gets worse. And then they try and solve that festering problem. And then they try and, with this kind of nonsense.
I mean, this is the leeches eating King Viserys' finger, in House of the Dragon. This is
right. Yeah,
every time
the government is putting those leeches
government's on. The maester, that's putting the hand in the leeches.
Yes,
that's what this is. I mean,
I agree.
They're not helping.
They're doing the best they can. The source of the problem is being ignored. Capitalism is the disease that's killing him, and the government is the maester putting the leeches on. I agree. Viserys in this scenario is dying because of capitalism.
Well, I don't think it's because of capitalism, but
He's not.
We'd have to completely reform our public school system if we wanted to say that the average person, we don't need the average person to go to college, because
And I am fully for
is,
public school reform.
the fact of the matter is that back in the day when school period wasn't for everyone, the elites sent their children to school to learn critical thinking, mathematics, science, and philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
We do teach mathematics and science in public school, but we've gotten rid of critical thinking and philosophy, and you now have to go to college for that. So it's still a situation where the elites get to learn critical thinking and philosophy, which are very important. Our entire government is built on philosophy. Everything that happens in Congress is philosophical debate, and we're not teaching that in public school. And it's clear we have a critical thinking problem in this country.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And I would say that this 10% of income, this top 10% of income earners, is fake Republican populism. I think Republicans generally are fake populists. If you take on loans and go to college, you become part of the top 10%. That's just all there is to it. And if the only reason to go to college is so that you can become part of that top 10%. So I think this is a true statement, but it's used in a weaselly way.
All the greatest economists say that the best way to improve your lifetime earnings is to go to college.
Right.
You're more likely for that to happen if you go
and
to
we
college.
all know that. So we all want to go to college. So we all do what we can to get there. And taking on those loans is one of the things that we do. And I think that that's a thing that the government could choose to subsidize and pay for. And that's what they're doing with this, aren't
I think
they?
a large part of that is the college culture, though. Is
Yes.
we have jobs now that are entry-level jobs that say you have to have a college degree when you're not using any skill from your college degree to do that entry-level job. But they require a college degree because so many people have one now that it's just like back in the day saying you have to have a high school diploma.
Right.
It's ridiculous. We've had this inflation because we've had this inflation of work requirements. Specifically because of the free money spigot sending everybody to college that don't need to go to college.
I would say that that's because the company wants the best. This company doesn't want anybody from that bottom 90% of income of people. They want that top 10%. So
Well,
that
it's not
they
the
can
bottom
get
90% of income because you can require a college degree for a $15 an hour job.
Right. And why would the company do that?
Because they can, because so many people go to college and need jobs.
Because they want the best people. Because they want the most dedicated. They want the most efficient. They want the most properly well-trained and well-rounded person so that they can make more money. You see how
that's fine, but if less people go to college, then they won't make those requirements.
Let me throw a curveball in here. Again, I think we're kind of not committing to privatization or socializing things. So as your cybersecurity correspondent, I have gotten certifications through organizations that do it for a profit. And I know that my certifications are earning me more money because I can go online and look at Indeed or Glassdoor or whatever. I can search for companies looking for certifications. They say they want these. This is proof that I have knowledge and skills that they desire. And I've put forth the effort to go out and learn those things and take an exam and get the certification, which is similar to how we view college. You went to college, you learn a broad range of skills. I can be fairly certain you'll be able to write at a certain level, you'll know mathematics to a certain level, and you have a broad range of knowledge, and you specialized in some way while you were in college. So wouldn't privatization look like certifications for other areas of the economy that we want to get people into? Couldn't you become certified in a pharmacy setting or certified for any other number of jobs? Why have college when we could have people proving that they can dedicate effort and time and that they know something through a certification.
Yes, and that's what I would push for is trade schools.
Okay, great. Those
Um,
trade schools cost money and
a lot less
time.
than college, though.
I agree that they do cost less in college. I agree that there is a lot of bloat in the college situation, and trade
Yeah,
schools are a good idea.
because of government-backed student loans. That's
Right.
why there's so much bloat.
Yes. And why do they have government-backed student loans? Because people couldn't afford it because of capitalism.
No, people could afford it.
Yes. No, they couldn't.
Just
They
listen to
couldn't
any one of your
afford
boomer
it.
grandparents that told you about how they paid for their own college by working a part-time job at fucking McDonald's.
Right. That doesn't
Like
work anymore.
everybody who's got a Gen X or a boomer person in their family that they still maintain contact with will tell you, yeah, I worked part-time at McDonald's or I worked part-time as a waiter at some restaurant at Olive Garden, and that put me through college with no debt. And then they turn the free money spigot on. That's when
Because people
college became
couldn't go
ridiculously
to
expensive.
college. People couldn't afford it. There were people who couldn't afford it back then. There were people who could not afford it back then.
I think there's a complex of issues here, both in the past and in the present. In the past, you had lower economic people weren't receiving the same education that our boomer parents were receiving, and so it was harder for them to get into college anyway, on top of the fact that they didn't have a lot of money. But I hear you. Maybe there it was easier back then. It's true. More people could go to college without getting a loan or having to worry about it. Nowadays, your boomer parent had an apartment that probably cost 45 times less or 5 times less than what it costs now. So the kids that want to go to college nowadays aren't going to be able to have a job and go to college and afford rent, even probably with roommates.
Well, a
And
part of that
it,
is because of the number of people going to college inflates the value of the properties around that area. If you have,
I mean, there's no getting around how much property values have gone up everywhere. Like,
Property values have gone through the roof. I agree. Yeah. And I don't think
well,
that's
that would
because
be a function of the of inflation, which the Fed is desperately trying to control using its rates, which Elizabeth Warren was mad about.
I know, but then
we'll get off on a tangent.
that's a
But
tangent. We're moving on to the
we'll
next
get
one.
off
Because
yeah.
then I'll just start talking about housing. Stop wasteful and extreme climate spending. Rescind $3 billion for new UPS electrical vehicles, $1 billion for clean garbage trucks, $3.4 billion for regional greenways and tree planting, and $5.6 billion for low emission buses. Fuck this. This is fucking fantastic. Fuck the Republicans. This is great. They can fuck off. We need more electrical vehicles. We need better, cleaner trucks. I don't know what a regional greenway is, but I'm on board for it. Tree planting, Jesus Christ, tree planting is the only fucking thing that's going to save us from climate change. Trees are the machines that take carbon out of the air. We need to plant more.
Yeah, I would like tree planting to stick around. I've told you I'm in favor of reforestation before. This is a line item I don't necessarily agree with. The USPS electric vehicles and the clean garbage trucks, maybe I could see cutting because I doubt that it'll only cost 3 and 1 billion. But then again, these to me are the small potatoes that I don't really care about. This one and the last one are really small things. Like that woke waste one talking about a couple of $1 million. It's like whatever. This one talking about a total of what 10 billion maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, about 10 billion. It's small potatoes for me. I would leave it in. I doubt that it only costs us 3 billion to replace the USPS vehicles, and it only costs us $1 billion to replace the garbage trucks. But that's just the government for you. I mean, the government is inefficient and wasteful, and I again don't think it'll only cost 3 billion because we were told that the F-35 was going to cost us a certain amount, and now it's at something like 5 times the amount it was originally supposed to. So, the government is the government. And if the USPS can get its entire fleet revamped with electric vehicles for only $3 billion, then I'd take it, but it's probably going to cost, I bet, about 10.
Okay. I'm still on board. refocus spending to programs that address the crisis at the border, not exacerbate it. The recent 1.7 trillion omnibus that Democrats rushed through at the end of the year was ripe with wasteful and misguided spending, including hundreds of millions of dollars towards organizations that facilitate illegal immigration and 10 million for legal assistance for detained migrants. 10 million. We're talking trillions.
Again, we're talking small potatoes, yeah.
Small potatoes. I don't trust Republicans when it comes to the border. I think they're all full of shit. Immigration helps our economy, not hurts it. Address billions in improper payments. Government, this is what you were talking about, stop these improper payments. Like, do you have a plan?
Mm-hmm.
Do they have ways to do these things? I don't know. How are they going to...
Yeah, I don't know. I would assume if they intend to address those improper payments, and they have a plan to do it, but they don't lay it out, so I don't know.
Stop woke waste. Again, the word woke.
And this one's like more of a political stunt than anything else, I think.
Right, and
we're talking so much small potatoes on this line item that, I mean, we're talking $1 million in a $7 trillion budget. It's like, all right,
literally nothing.
Whatever.
And then they just say the Social Security and Medicare are earned benefits programs that must be saved and strengthened. Okay, great. Well, how would you like to do that? They complain about the Democrats. Expanded welfare without work, doubled down on Obamacare, and provided giveaways to green energy companies. Good. Give away more to green energy companies. More green energy companies. Get more government money. I'm on board. Should stop preying on the fears of seniors by accusing Republicans of cutting Social Security and Medicare, and instead work with us on a bipartisan solution to address their insolvency. That's just complaining. They don't have any plan. And the last time they had a big plan, wasn't it George W. Bush wanted to privatize all of these things and put them on the market? That's the last big Republican plan. That was the last big Republican plan that I can remember for Social Security and Medicare, is that he said, hey, this whole government thing ain't working. We're going to put it on the stock market where it can go up every year. And I think that would just cause economists to steal all the money, bankrupt it, and profit off of that bankruptcy somehow. Because I don't trust economists. I don't trust the stock market. Okay, so that's their reply to Mr. Biden.
Oh no, that's this came out before Biden's thing.
Oh, did it? February 8th? Okay.
Yeah.
I guess you're right. Well, 8, 9, 10, 11, a few days. Okay. Anything more to say about the debt?
Need to cut it. Need to cut the debt.
Okay, great. I am on board for cutting it, but I think you can do that by taxing rich people.
I mean, I'm also going to point out again, 1/6 of our budget goes to national defense, which might be a bit high right now. We raised it even more when we went to war with Iraq.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and okay, we were going to war, so you raise the defense budget. Makes sense. Now we're not at war.
Yeah, our
lowering
defense
it.
budget, I think, needs to be cut substantially.
I know. What?
And I think part of that would also come. I mean, the Pentagon doesn't pass any of its fucking audits. It can't account for just about any of the money that it spends. Doesn't know where it goes. They've got something like $21 trillion.
I mean, they won't
money
account
they
for.
can't account for.
They can. They just won't, because they don't want.
And there's the acquisitions process that the military goes through is ridiculous. It encourages wasteful methods, I think, in terms of manufacturing and providing services to the government. So we got to reform that. Like, the entire thing needs reform in terms of the spending by the military and how we acquire things in the military, and the budget. If you did all that, you could probably get the budget sliced in about half.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm agreeing with you here. What's going to be on Fox News, though? What's the headline?
I don't care.
I know you don't care, but it matters.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, like, I'm fine, whatever, tax rich people. I get your point. It would get us money. But also, I think the bigger issue is we need to refocus on what's the word I'm looking for? Consumer protections. What is that called? We had a department for it.
Oh, Elizabeth Warren was in
Antitrust
charge
law.
of it. Oh, the antitrust.
Antitrust
Okay,
law.
okay.
Yeah, we need to refocus on antitrust. Amazon's grown into a monster. Like, we have a bunch of companies. It's a natural function of capitalism that companies want to consolidate and get bigger
Mm-hmm.
and become these Frankenstein monsters of different departments that don't serve their customers. They serve themselves. So I think your tax on the rich is fine, but if you really want to be able to tax corporations and create a more robust economy and help out the consumer, then you need to be looking at antitrust, in my opinion.
Okay. Okay.
I'd have to look into that a lot more. That's something I haven't considered.
Okay. That's all for the budget and the news stuff. Oh, hi. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. If you liked what you saw, hit the like button, press the subscribe button. If you want to tell me how right I am, feel free to leave a comment. If you want to tell me how wrong I am, leave a comment too. That's good. This is just kind of a hobby for me, so I appreciate you coming by, giving it a watch, and pressing the YouTube buttons. Thanks.